This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
She had to leave within 48 hours when that incident happened. Your dad had to leave within 24 hours?
No. My daddy left then.
At that moment?
He left everything.
When he left that riverbed,
he went straight and got y'all?
he went straight to, I think my sister said he went straight to Hennings, and then from Hennings he went to Jackson.
How did he get y'all out of it? Your mother?
Okay. Family came and got them because my big sister.
He was fearing that they might come back at that moment. Okay.
No, he didn't have time to fear. He was already in as much fear as he could be.
Yes, sir.
They threaten you and tell you they're going to take your life.
Yeah, he knew back then that they was going to come and get him.
Y'all, you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. We All Be is honored to have on with us none other than Brother
Nuri Ansari.
Brother Ansari, who is the...
I am the son of Elisha Davis, one of the original founders of the NAACP chapter here in Brownsville. He was one of our family was one of the families that was run out of this county and remained away from here for 23 years before my father eventually returned in 1963. He brought 2 of his kids on that trip. My baby sister, who is now 65, Deborah, and me. And I have to say that this trip, which I organized for myself and my family, is a vast difference, not only in the city of Brownsville, but in the state of affairs for people in this country. In one instance, we can look at it and see that time has not moved. In another instance, we are here marking movement of time behind the efforts of those people in 1939 and 1940 when they took the risk of organizing an NAACP chapter here in Brownsville. But we know that just a week ago in South Carolina, we had an incident that reminds us of the work that has to be done around the issues of social justice, economic justice in this country.
So, I mean, that's good you brought that up. I think all this ties because today, of course, marks the 75th anniversary of the lynching of brother Elbert Williams, who was a friend and associate of your father, correct?
That's correct. They were founding members of the NAACP chapter here in Brownsville. And it goes beyond that. He is our cousin.
Oh, this your family, blood. Okay.
He's a cousin from my mother's side of the family. And
they were more than friends.
So it's more than just friends. It's blood.
So it's personal.
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't know if I want to characterize it that way. But labors of love sometimes result in some very foul outcomes.
Yes, sir.
And this is one of those situations. All praises is due that this committee and Jim Emerson had the foresight to come together and decide that it's necessary to acknowledge those events, this particular individual, and the work that was done in those days. And I'm very happy about that, very pleased about that. I had to make a trip from New York City to be able to be here to represent, the 11 sons and daughters of Elisha Davis that are still living. And, we're very happy that there's acknowledgement for that event. Because it was a secret for a long time.
It was a
secret.
I didn't know about it.
And I realized as an adult that this is my son, Blake, who's yearns for the camera.
That's all right. He's made for it.
But they, this event is so connected that as I'm standing here even talking to you, I'm sorting out things. I have met cousins today that I've never known and never seen in my life. They came up to me and said, So it's really, I'm happy that I was able to make the trip. It took a little work, but we got it done.
Yeah, definitely. I want to ask you this, like you said, it was a secret. In my understanding, reading the narrative, I just found out about this story just a couple days, literally just several days ago, that your father was actually kidnapped and tortured by the same people that killed Brother Elbert, that lynched him.
Yes.
And took it to the Hatchie River.
They took my father. They came to the house and removed my father in front of his 7 living children and his pregnant wife. Took him away, and the estimation was 40 to 50 people, and he recognized who it was. The sheriff and undersheriff and people like that. They took him out, took him to the Hatchie, and they had a quote-unquote polite conversation with him about NAACP activism. Told him to get out, not to look back, or the next step is death. And so he did what he had to do. Other family and other friends were able to collect my brothers and sisters and my mother and get them out of Brownsville. Of course, we left behind a thriving business and a property, a farm outside of Brownsville, which we have never received any compensation for.
So who took it? Who took it once y'all left?
Well, we're working on finding that out. We've been, over the last 5 years, doing a lot of work with people here in Brownsville. It started with a special program out of Northeastern University in the East, and they started researching, digging around, trying to see what they could find out for us. So once we're able to put some pieces together, then we'll know what to do.
But this trauma is all too recurring. I know in Arkansas, for example, you had the case of Isidore Banks, a land-owning brother who owned over 1,000 acres of land and thriving businesses, and he was lynched for his lands. The black took his businesses and the whites took his land. And you go to West Marion, Arkansas, a lot of hotels and business restaurants on land that he owned, and some people say 2,000 acres of land. So you got this in Tulsa, you got this in Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898. You got these recurring incidents of this black terror, this domestic terrorism against people of color, black folk. Even look at that AME church that white supremacy burnt down. And I keep on thinking to myself, the reason why they have a hard time saying that it's domestic terrorism is because they owe us reparations. Because once you admit that you are indeed domestic terrorists and you have created domestic terrorism, you must owe reparations.
Are you then subject to UN regulation?
Exactly. So you remind me of Brother Malcolm. See, are you related to Malcolm X? You got the, you remind me of him. I was up there for his 90th birthday celebration at the Sebastian.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir. I saw Malcolm X doppelganger. You remind me of Malcolm and the statue and the coolness on the pressure.
With you.
Yes.
I am a member of the Mosque of Islamic Brotherhood.
Oh, wow.
On 113th Street.
Oh, okay.
And the Mosque of Islamic Brotherhood comes from Malcolm to us. Sheikh Alama Tawfiq was his personal choice to head up that mosque. The understanding that I have about the history is that Malcolm didn't want to try to run his organization and run a mosque at the same time.
Right.
But he knew that he wanted a mosque, and so he personally chose the Sheikh, and we've been thriving there since 1964. So it's not just a coincidence.
No, it's not.
You look distinguished anyway.
And you are very distinguished. But I also want to ask you this, because my understanding that the sheriff at the time was involved in the lynching and the terrorism that was, I guess, 22 black families that moved out of Brownsville because they formed that chapter NAACP.
Correct.
So the sheriff was involved. My understanding, a businessman who was involved with Coca-Cola was also involved. And the reason why I bring that up is because the last speech that Dr. King did in Memphis, he said you should boycott those places that will take your money but not give you jobs. He named Coca-Cola, he named Heart's Bread, Wonder Bread. Do you think that Coca-Cola should be held liable for what happened to the black citizens of Brownsville, and especially in the lynching of Elbert Williams 75 years ago? If one of their employees, one of their business people was involved directly, because we all know who the people were that were involved, right? We know all the people names. They known it for 75 years.
I can't say that all of that is known. It may well be. Mr. Emerson has related that most of the folks are known. The names that I know are the ones most closely related to removing my father. But let me say this about your question. I think that it's right to hold people responsible once you are very clear and there's undeniable evidence of their involvement.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. So I don't know if it's Coca-Cola. I don't know if it's a particular employee. I don't know if it's the ownership. I'm not in a position to say who. But when you do the research and you come up with a very clear answer, that's your directive.
Yes, sir.
You have to be, you take those who are responsible to task for what they did or did not do.
Yes, sir. So we got a long history. America should be held responsible. To me, what my understanding is, if you just look at the history of the AME Church in Charleston, it was founded by Digmark VC. They wouldn't even mention his name on mainstream media. It took black folks going on TV to let them know that he founded that church, and y'all burned it down because black folks won't be free. Well, and they got the hanging tree where he was hanging from. They got that area in a one-way street, specially cultivated. I've been there.
So you don't miss it?
Yeah, it's a symbol. And then, they fly the Confederate flag. So basically, how can you build this country without slavery, without paying the people that built this country? You can't have this type of wealth. So all this is built on sin. All these institutions are built because of white supremacy racism. The black church was founded because of white supremacy racism. So every institution in America came out of white supremacy.
Yeah. You can't separate their history, but you got to know it.
I'm sorry for all this. I'm going to ask you questions.
I'm saying you got to know the history. One of the main faults that black folks in this country is not knowing.
Yes, sir.
And you have to be able to connect the dots. When you can connect the dots, then you can make a better case. And I don't think that everything may not be able to be handled through the courts.
Right, I hear you.
But as much as possible, do it and make it legal, because at the end of the day, black folks are civilized.
We are.
Contrary to popular belief.
Yes, sir.
Black folks are civilized. They come from a long, healthy history of development. Even coming to this, being brought to this country under duress, many survived. And the reason, because they were part of the best that came from the shores of Africa. That's who was stolen.
That's right.
So that's in us.
Yes, sir.
And we need to tap that. really to tap that. But part of tapping that is knowing your history and being able to connect the dots so you know how to move. Everybody's not going to be as brave as Elbert Williams and my father.
That's right.
Or the other families. It's just not in.
But they knew they were going to be martyrs.
Well, they didn't want to get their life. You know, they were willing to give their life, like the dude said, but they got taken. Nobody got taken.
You don't get involved with that not thinking something bad is going to happen. My brothers and I were not told this story until very, very late in our adult life.
Yes, sir.
My sisters were told. My father's fear was our reaction to what we were told as men.
Different generation.
But he didn't want his daughters to misunderstand how the country works, how this whole thing goes.
Yes, sir.
My 86-year-old sister is still a member of the NAACP, and she renews every year.
Wow.
I have a niece that's 60 years old in California. Every election season, she calls all of her aunts, uncles, and cousins and say, you better vote. Papa didn't die for you not voting. Or she send you a text. Social justice is what we do as a family.
Right.
In some way or another. We don't have big names and we're not all over the newspaper. But social justice is what we do as a family. Because that's where we come from.
That's good.
Now, did your father have survivor's remorse? Like, did he feel guilty about surviving the terrorism of Brownsville?
If he did, he didn't share that. Again, it was not something that he talked about.
So he was traumatized. But you say he had post-traumatic stress disorder. Did he show any signs of that, or it would be like?
I think Elbert Williams and Elisha Davis went into a situation understanding what they were going to be up against and what they might have to do. And if that's the case, I think it's different than what happens with war, like Iraq and things.
Right.
You don't necessarily know why you're fighting. You're just a military soldier. They knew what they were fighting for. They knew what the risk was. They knew what the outcome could be. And so what they did, they were prepared for it. My father opened businesses, he bought property, and he raised his 14 children and kept them all together. So he didn't go on drugs, he didn't go on whiskey, nothing else. He went to the church. That's what my father did.
And plus, he was into the slavery movement that he knew some people had to give.
Please, because your son is hot.
I'm sorry about that. No, it is hot out here. I want to ask you a question about that.
But he was into the movement of slavery, like in Harry Tubman, where he knew that some people had to sacrifice their lives. Because $1 was kind of like $100 or $1,000 back then. Everybody had to make something bigger than them succeed, right?
That's what I'm saying. They understood what they were up against. They understood what it's going to take to get what they were asking for.
Right.
And it was really a simple thing. Could I just go down there and vote, please? That's all I really want.
Yeah, they lynched them for that.
For that.
Just to help people to participate their full civic rights as citizens.
Ignorance is a terrible, terrible disease to suffer from. It really, really is. And I think part of our understanding of what goes on in this country sometimes is the ignorance that's abound.
Yes, sir.
And many of our citizens, and I'm not saying black or white, I'm saying that many of our citizens, say we're not going to be able to handle things very well when we don't know. And that's why I keep getting back to understanding and being informed about your history.
I'm going to ask you this as well, too, because I think that with white supremacy, they attack black folks at our strongest points. And I know I talked to Baba Dick Gregory yesterday. He said two of the greatest forces ever known to America has been the black church and the black woman. Right. You saw what happened in the black church, the AME church in Charleston. You saw that they killed 6 black women. And my thing is this about the religion piece, because I was very concerned as a black person when I saw on Friday that folks was able to publicly forgive the person that did these horrendous things against their church, their beliefs, and their families. And my thing is, I always tell people the first ship that came over here, a slave ship, was named Jesus. And that's the only thing they really taught us in this system was their religion. They never taught us how to read and write, and they still ain't teaching us how to truly read and write, or even understand our history. So what I'm saying is, I'm looking at, if I'm part of religion that tells me to forgive my enemy before I can forgive my brother or sister, it tells me to forgive my enemy. And you know good and well my enemy ain't praying for me, so I'm making my enemy stronger every generation for future generations to go up against. Is that counterproductive to be praying for the wellness of your enemies when they giving you hell on earth? I'm just saying from a point of view of black people, because South Carolina got more black folks, probably like they're Mississippi, go neck to neck. Like over 30% of the population in South Carolina is black. 40% of the enslaved Africans came through South Carolina, Charleston Harbor. The Civil War was started there, so it's not a racial conflict there.
My culture tells me that I have to proceed through life as a righteous person. Part of that is being forgiven in my nature. My culture also tells me that I have to defend myself against all of those who, first of all, attack my God, attack my family, attack my community, and attack my nation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So forgiveness is a part of the scope of how I would solve problems. But how that plays out in terms of, I can forgive with my heart.
Right.
I don't have to forgive with my tongue. I can forgive with my heart. I don't have to forgive with my actions.
Right. I think that's a well-stated answer. I think a lot of us do too much acting in front of the camera. Like we confuse press conferences with strategy. Like we not doing enough strategy. Because even when I went to see Malcolm's 90th birthday celebration at the Shabazz Center, I am sure if Brother Malcolm was alive, he rather would have the results rather than the rhetoric. You know, everybody quote Malcolm this and Malcolm that, but how many people I want to put their lives on the line for what he believe in? And I'm looking at myself, we have almost 2 terms of Obama, and really the success of a generation is how strong you build institutions. What are some institutions that we're leaving behind for our kids? I mean, they're having a war against historical black colleges. There's a war against all fronts. I mean, how can we have a community without institutional control?
Well, again, once you get past the forgiveness, you gotta, leadership is action. It's not a title. You have to do something.
Yes, sir.
And you have to collectively do something. We often talk, we being the little brotherhood that I coexist with in New York City, we often talk about how, I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you, I'm sorry.
We often talk about collectively, how do we organize the greatest part of that $1.1 trillion that's in the black community?
Right.
And we both, I think, understand where that is.
Right.
It's in our comedians, it's in our baseball players, our basketball players, our football players, our musicians, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Beyonce can't give us $50,000 and think she's done. Okay. But we need a collective of people working together that doesn't have one person who is the sole leader that everybody looks to, but a collective group of people that are financed by the wealthiest black people in this country to establish those institutions, to change the way the education is done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's kind of the thing that we're looking for to happen, and that's what we push for. Like I say, from my brotherhood, we're not about the schools.
Definitely.
What black hospitals you know about? What black schools you know about? And as you said, the historically black colleges and universities, they under fire.
Right.
So we're getting ready to lose that too. We better get busy.
So should we be discouraged? or encouraged?
No, we should always be encouraged. We should always have hope. Those of us that can change this world have hope. I don't care how bad it gets, how ugly it gets. Caring about the outcomes will give you hope. Optimism. You got to believe. See, you got to believe. The Dr. Brooks this morning in his fired up sermon.
Right.
He believes in something. Believes in God, number one, and he believes in the work that he does, number two.
Yes, sir.
So he's an optimistic person, and just even though we are faced with what we're faced with, something as horrible as South Carolina. Come on, it's everywhere. It's not just South Carolina. It's everywhere, and it's more subtle in other places than it is in South Carolina.
Man, what words would you like to leave? I mean, coming from a strong legacy. Obviously, your father was a very strong man. I'm looking at the fruit right now. What will you? What words can you leave with our people right now in this time of holy hell? I call it. What can we do? What can you say to us? that we need to know at this moment, at this hour?
What Bob Marley say? Get up, stand up.
Yes, sir.
Get up, stand up. And stand on your history, stand on your belief in the Creator who put you here. Educate yourself, be informed.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, brother. What's your name again?
Nuri Ansari.
Brother Ansari.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And the words of great together. We love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing.
Shukran.
Thank you, man. You got a card on you by any chance?
No, and I gave all.
You got my